very strong on the map, so that the opposing team can't use it when they end up switching sides later on. TSM will ban out the Maverick and leave up Thatcher to be able to be banned by the Soniqs. How do the Soniqs feel about this? Have to see. Obviously, Maverick, a huge component on Clubhouse when it comes to getting things like the CCTV wall as well as hatches. This is also going to mean that Kaid has went up in importance as well, especially depending on what this ban looks like. And it is indeed going to be the Hibana, making quite a bit of sense. We talk about Hibana quite a lot, especially with the fact that she is indeed the hatch queen. She's got the best utility in the game when it comes to disrupting those hatches, and Clubhouse, a map that has quite a few of those. What's the defensive ban, though, for the Soniqs? It's going to be Azami. This is exactly what I thought. Actually, Pengu and I were talking about this yesterday when it came to the Soniqs. I really did expect Super to lean into an Azami ban and try and force some teams back to what they were playing before previously, just so they don't have to deal with any of the new stuff. I think it's a really, really smart ordeal. They're also going to get rid of the Kaid so they don't have to bring the Thatcher. That's something we've seen in recent history. Just kind of a respect ban so they can work in other things on the offensive side. But there you go. That's how things are set up for the bans, and that's exactly why I really wanted to see what we were going to see on the defensive end, because now we have Mira in play as well for that basement setup.
Yep, absolutely the case. It is going to fall back to a more traditional style of play here, more than likely, though. Unless the Soniqs really want to throw us for a curveball and try to add some sense action in. They, of course, haven't had a whole lot of play just yet. We did see it used once in yesterday's matchup, but it didn't really lead to a whole lot of success just yet. So it's going to take some more time before they're potentially incorporating the team strategies a bit more purely here.
I'm really respecting the Azami ban here from the Soniqs. I think it's extremely smart. Clubhouse is a map where I felt as though Azami was going to get some of the most play, just because of, like we were talking about inside of the pregame. This map's quite rigid. You know, like, there's a lot of different things you can do, I guess, but when it comes down to it, you're really looking to clear Clubhouse in like one of two ways. So it's really not that big of a deal when it comes to working this map. But obviously TSM, they're going to be going for the roam strategy. This is something that we also touched upon. This is usually the extension that you see from the basement just to make the clear a little bit more complex, and that's what we were talking about. There's about two ways you're going to clear out this map. We'll see which way the Soniqs want to go. Are they going to go direct downstairs? Are they going to go for the full clear on the top floor? If they do, they want to set up for that hammer and anvil, get somebody across the map to make sure that TSM's fallback strategy does not work out as beautiful as it is intended.
Interesting bandit setup over there inside of Strip for Geo. We're actually going to see two of the batteries committed to that along with the reinforcements there. So definitely a pretty heavy emphasis for Geo to maintain this current position here and be able to play it out for a bit longer than we might generally expect. So I'm going to be very curious to see how that leads into the late round more than anything, as the Soniqs may have to spend quite a bit of time clearing that out. At the moment, though, more concerned with the upstairs play more than anything else. So that is what the focus is for the clear at the moment for the Soniqs here, trying to flush out the one or two players from TSM. They're going to be maintaining that position, and it'll start with Rex and potentially one other player to group in and try to flush that player out.
Really like the positioning from Geo as well, because he's got the secondary super shorty, so he can just simply, oh, nice shot there from Chala. Sweating it out there for Yetis. He tries to creep up secret, but doesn't work out for him. Chala more than likely heard the window hop, and that's going to be a freebie over to TSM there, as he's going to lose out in the 1v1 situation. Also going to be one of the hard breach members down, so now Super has to pick and choose these hatches. No secondary hard breach available either. Rexon's going to be inside of Garage, does still have the availability to drop down into Oil Pit, but Merc's going to pick up Kanzan as this continues to get more and more difficult. And in fact, Merc's inside of Bar at the current moment. Grixer is upstairs waiting for him to make a misplay. Won't be able to find it, but finally, as Merc stumbles back into the angle, Grixer will be able to pick him up with the LMG. Won't be able to equalize just yet. The drone game's spinning up for the Soniqs, but they haven't been able to discover too much, minus that refrag onto Merc. And the big issue is, well, you still have a Geo all the way over here inside of Strip, and as I touched on before, he's got a lot of different avenues that he can potentially rotate out of, just like this wall. You see, that's why Grixer is staring at this at the current moment, because he's just a nuisance. They can't play around the bar hatch. There's really not much they can do without dislodging him, because at any moment, Geo can simply slip him behind them and pick up some very impactful frags.
Attackers, unfortunately, don't have a whole lot of utility to force him out of here either. They've got the hard breach still on Super. Grixer can help out the three remaining players by boosting up their health and whatnot, obviously, but Rex, the only thing he's really going to be able to contribute here is going to be those stuns to be chucked in, and that's assuming he hasn't already used both of them. He does have two of the lifeline charges left. Excuse me, could be a 1-1 split, but we'll get a better idea of that when they start to move in. It looks like, yeah, we do have those stun charges remaining, but they're going to be used to attack the site here. Excellent start to it from Super as he gets to the end. entry, but Bulo immediately trading out both of those kills. It's all brought down to Grixer here inside of a 1v3. He'll have to make this push all on his lonesome here. Sneaks in, will get a free kill against the smoke. That's achieved going down. Nice insertion, but won't be able to take it any further than that as Bulo is immediately ready to exchange that out and lock in the round for TSM.
Now, TSM probably pretty happy to be back on the stage where they were playing from home yesterday, so already feeling themselves inside of the first round. The Soniqs cannot deal with the roam game. They get some solid info on the top floor, but they instead go for a mid-floor entry, all except for the Finka taking up construction upstairs. It did assist them in getting control of Merc, but past that, it was the TSM show, constantly applying pressure to the Soniqs on different stairwells and different angles, as well as Geo really not having to do a whole heck of a lot. Just sat inside his strip.
Being there.
It was annoying. That was it. That's all he had to do, and that's why that setup works so great for them. They reinforce the outside and make it to where the Soniqs have to dedicate so much utility to try and clear out that area, and since they didn't bring a Thatcher, it makes it even that much more convoluted. So instead, they're like, all right, I guess we have to just go for the direct building instead of trying to get Geo out of here, and that's also ill-advised as well because TSM gets so many picks on their roam game that are simply not refragged by the Soniqs. Nobody really inside of the same zip code to be able to assist each other, all except for Grixer that we saw on that top floor being able to pick up Merc. But even then, Merc definitely had an opportunity to be able to slip through the cracks there. He just happened to move the wrong way.
So, time to see if TSM can continue their reign of terror here after having a pretty confident initial basement defense. That is somewhat the expected win for the defense, as it's a fairly defendable site. It's time to see now if Soniqs, with a few more opportunities to breach through and actually pierce the veil, get themselves inside, will be able to have better results now. On an upstairs hold, inside of gym and bedroom as well. Not going to go for the expected second site over here towards Cash, so TSM will throw a slight curveball at it. More likely just testing their wits a bit here to see if they're truly ready to play out this side of the strategy yet. We are going to see quick work made, however, of the main balcony wall. The Soniqs will waste no time in getting their access to the building.
Fantastic adjustment here from the Soniqs. Bringing in the EMPs on Yeti is going to make it to where the rest of these offenses are going to be pretty solid if they continue to bring it, obviously because of the strategy that we just seen from TSM. It makes it to where you can potentially get some EMPs in to not only break up like things like ADSs and stuff like that, but those bandit batteries especially, so you can have some influence over a position like Geo's in the last round. They've already gotten the wall open. This is exactly the first step that you want when it comes to a CCTV offense, as well as clearing out the top of red. The deployable shield, so very annoying if you don't get rid of it, as the smoke player, anybody else can simply sit on that and try and play the crossfire for the breach. So always good to give them as most minimal cover as possible. The drone's now in for the Soniqs as TSM is backed up, playing more towards construction as well as secret, just seeing if they can actually wrap themselves around the Sonic setup as they're starting to work their way into garage. Merc also has denial with this Nitro cell, but Soniqs, they know it's not going to be that easy. They'll more than likely look downstairs before going for this plant, as Rexon has quickly put us into LA Noire. Merc also along for the ride here. I feel like we have to switch up our accents, John. Really don't know what we have to go for the rest of the time.
We got the color back.
We got it back. We have entered the 21st century. Very, very proud of the Rainbow Six stream.
All right, so the Soniqs still working on getting their way in, and they'll be able to find a good jumping off point here with Rexon being able to get the entry against Bolo. Rest of the team ready to move forward and swing their way into logistics primarily. Kansan will entry in from there, but Grixer gets a double frag kill. Geo and Chala both fall victim to that. Another entry's picked up from Yeti, only leaving that bathroom position alive for Achieved, and that won't stay alive for very long either. Soniqs immediately changing up the pace of this game after a rocky start in round one. I think it was a flawless take in the second.
That's a huge, huge difference between those two rounds, and it mostly benefited off the fact that they brought Thatcher. Made it so much easier for them to gain access to a lot of parts of the map that are extremely influential and force the defense into some pretty dire circumstances, especially after they get rid of the top red position and make that even more complicated to play. TSM tend to fall back, and that's exactly what we see. They start working their way towards Master, and Soniqs are ready for that, taking out quite a few members, especially from the logistics hatch, as they clear in through construction and actually apply pressure to TSM's hold over on that part of the map and practically just decimate them from that point. Not a single refrag coming through, and even that last kill, you think just for a second there that there is some potential to at least get a couple of kills as an undiscovered smoke just sits inside of the shower for Master, but even then, Still have a beautiful shot from Rexon that takes him down from the window. Just a simple face peek from that moment. No extra info needed. Falls around for the Soniqs. They're on the board, and now TSM back to CCTV to try it yet again.
Yep, TSM realized the potential misplay there, just extending the site out a bit too early on, so they're going to go back into cache and CCTV. Important to note that after this run through, they'll re-unlock basement, so it's unlikely we'll see them return for at least 2 additional rounds to the gym and bedroom site here, even if they lock in this one. For the Soniqs, not going to see any huge change-up to their own attacking lineup. You can bring a pretty straightforward amount of play here to this map, and it'll generally work for most sites. So once again, we'll be seeing that usual lineup of operators here. Rexon's adding a secondary hard breach for the ace in the event that we need that, but we have already been seeing that for previous rounds also.
Yeah, we've had Rexon on the Zofia for one round. He was on the ace the last round, so more ace than Zof inside of this, and that's allowed Kansan to go over to more of a soft breach option. And as you guys know, Sledge always a fantastic choice. Great utility usage there from Achieve, but oh no, Rexon catches him off guard.
Wasn't expecting
he pre-fires the breach. Able to take him down in top red, and that's going to be the batteries gone, although the job was already done for the Soniqs. So they're able to get that outside hole open. Now Super going to be able to get the second part of this breach as well. That will more than likely not be able to be bandit tricked in the first place anyways, just given the circumstances. Might have gotten an impact on that. Should have been Geonidas here. So I don't believe that wall got open on the other end. Geo holding down onto that, and obviously, like we were talking about before, this Raptors position quite influential when it comes down to it, but since a zombie is not in play, it won't be nearly as defendable when it comes to common day standards. Drone in now. Geo will try and get rid of that as we'll continue to try and build up these discs to apply to the situation.
Lots of the hard breach gone as Rexon uses his final Selma. So excellently played here in terms of utility usage, as they're going to run out of hard breach just as they get everything opened up. Would have been nice to have access to construction, but it shouldn't be a requirement as Geo takes a dirty fight versus Yeti and comes out as the victor here, evening out the kill count for both teams and bringing it down to a 4v4. Nade going long, fortunately ends up a little bit too short ultimately though, as no damage is struck against the members of TSM. They'll keep themselves alive and at the same HP. And the Soniqs will sit here wondering what the next move is, as they're now with less than 1 minute to go until they'll lose this by default.
Well, it seemed as though Yeti was really hoping that Geo would just give Garage over to him. He tags him up a bit, but obviously sitting in the angle really punished him in that situation. But finally, Super will be able to refrag him. That'll be Garage control for the Soniqs, as they'll immediately hop to, because they must. Big issue is this wall is indeed banded, but it's banded on the Raptor side, so should be fairly straightforward for them to be able to get that open and attempt to plant. The big thing is this, oh my god, Merc gets well merked. Rexon will take him down. That's going to be the Nitro cell out here, and potentially the last stop for TSM. Bolo does indeed still have one. Super's going to smoke this off so that he can hold on to the cross, but Bolo does indeed have Warden, so he'll be seen through this smoke. He'll be able to potentially get some big kills, but oh, a big miss onto Super. He tags the backpack of the Thermite. The smoke will actually smoke him out. Prone now for Bolo, as Griksher will pick up one, but Rexon will pick up the second. The Soniqs able to work it out after Geo goes down in Garage. Soniqs take full control and able to try and fake things out with the plant to not only bait the utility, but to bait the frags out from TSM. Soniqs up 2-1.
Entry game from Soniqs there was just absolutely so clean there, with the exception being, of course, that fight between Geo and Yeti, that the only one that didn't really go their way. After this engagement, though, every single kill, starting with Super's pickup as well. Now, Rexon's also just goes exactly the way they needed it to, and unfortunately, all the setups from TSM just failed to yield any results, especially that hallway play right there. So.
Yeah. What I was going to say is, like, it's always really difficult when you see one of the best players in the whole world miss some crucial shots like that. And it's really just down to the tracking. You got of the Castle. We saw the Castle have some heavy influence instead of their last defensive round like this, but it's still going to be similar circumstances, as Merc will be on the Oryx and they'll more than likely be going for a roam game. They're going to dedicate themselves still across this time, though. Geo's just going to be on the mute instead. And we'll see if the Thatcher's working its way in for the Soniqs, and in fact, it's not at the current moment. So what we thought would be the counter here for this position, if they really wanted to dislodge Geo that badly, they're actually not going to have access to it, so might have to try and circumnavigate him yet again and just be hopeful that Geo doesn't come back to bite them.
All right, well, let's see here. As you said, that setup is going to stay alive this time. It's going to be a little bit more aggressive, I would say, though, at least going off of Gio's position now that we've seen the members of the Sonics spawn out. Looks like he's going to be potentially playing around with the bathrooms area, as well as that strip setup that we saw in the previous round. So more likely fall back into the strip position later. This is a risky play from Rexen, but it works out so well, taking the pre-fired shots against him as the door was being opened as well, down to about 75 HP. But Chala, just no way to expect such raw aggression to move itself in through stock. So he goes down with complete surprise on his face as Rexen takes him out.
You know, I still would be a little worried about Kansan shooting me twice in the back, trying to break the door, but I think that's for another time. It worked out. Chala's dead, Rexen's still alive, and really, why wouldn't you be happy about that as the Sonics? Still have plenty of utility to be able to work through all of these situations. Rexen's going to have secondary stuns instead of secondary hard breach, so won't have that for the hatches, but will have the burn for the site, and that would be a little bit more important in a scenario like this. But at second glance, don't really have any other options when it comes to their hard breach at the current moment, so it's going to be the funnel strat for the Sonics, which could work out for them, as they've already gotten the lead when it comes to this first kill onto Chala. Merc has already fallen back more towards the stairwell as Rexen awaiting the arrival of a player up main stairs, but instead it'll be Geonitis from down low to take him out from Church.
Tries to go for a quick pre-fire into Blue to see if maybe anyone from the Sonics had already taken control over there. He's right about the fact that Blue has been taking control, but the Sonics is wrong about the positioning. His Yeti is going to be safely tucked away behind the AC unit, so is not going to become a victim of any potential spray from Gio here. Achieved also catching on to the dirt tunnel play, as we saw our stock players quickly transition into that, but still, they're not going to be able to stop this execute. Sonics are walking right in, and TSM still have a roam game being played out on upper floors, so they're going to need to call that back, bring everybody to the site, and look for a retake here. To some extent, TSM locked themselves out of a retake with these toxic babes. Grix are on the cross through one of them, and Kansan in another department are able to pick up 2 additional kills here against the TSM retake. It's Merc and Gio that are all that's left here. Gio's been waiting for his chance to strike from inside of Church, and he may soon get it here as Merc moves in, but the timing on the unscope is awful. Kansan is able to grab him because of that and then clean up shop by getting the last kill as well.
Very well done from the Sonics. The recognition of the lack of players inside of Armory allows them to slip through not only on the secret side and get into Blue, but also come through dirt in a very convincing way, forcing back the TSM setup. Really the only counter that we saw out of TSM was that nice shot from Gio onto the vertical player inside of Kitchen, and that's going to call for a TSM timeout. Very respectful at this point. It's 3-1 in favor of the Sonics as we lie.
Big respect to the Sonics here. Massive change up to the game plan and the execute strategy compared to what we saw on that first basement attack. It was pretty much just a default from the Sonics on the first round. They're trying to play it slowly, going for a usual top-down clear. This time it's way more direct, getting that drone intel inside of the drone phase that there was going to be a player roaming around its stocks, immediately focus targeting them after they reconfirm that they're still there once the prep phase ends. That gives them the first entry cleanly. Then they just laser focus on getting into the site, paying no heed to any of the first or second floor roam game that was being played out there, and it just worked for the Sonics as they're able to walk right into Armory because TSM were still messing around with the upper floors.
It was super solid recognition of what the play was going to be from TSM, because that doesn't work out if it's not a roam strategy. Especially with the operator lineup that we saw from the Sonics, that is only going to work on a setup like that because they don't have access to dirt at all. They don't have any secondary hard breach unless those reinforcements happen to be on a jacuzzi or a CCTV wall upstairs and you don't dedicate them to dirt. And then I can just sledge in and have my entire team in your back door in a moment's notice. And yeah, that's exactly what happened. That was more than likely Super's thoughts. He's like, you want to put the reinforcements upstairs? All right, cool. Watch this. we're going to come direct. Amazon 2-day delivery, my boy. We are here.
And even stranger choice, in my opinion, here from TSM as well, to go back to gym and bedroom now after seeing what we just had play out on basement. Still had the option to go back to that, of course, and just a quick correction of their strategy may have led to another successful round, but instead, they're going to go to the site where the Sonics picked up a flawless round back on round 2. So this is an interesting choice for TSM. Won't judge it too harshly yet, though, as they just had a tactical pause, so they're probably going to be coming into this one with a refreshed mindset on how to handle it.
Yes, indeed. They're bringing plenty of throwable denial here with Wamai and Jaeger coming in. Also, extra pickup here that's became a pro favorite the last handful of years here. Alibi working her way in as well. So we'll have those prismas around the windows just for the pre-fires of the offense. Potentially catch somebody off guard, get some free info, and just be a nuisance overall. She's also got a really solid gun, the MX-4 Storm. Amazing rate of fire, and rate of fire is king when it comes to the game of Rainbow Six. So definitely a favorable gun. Recently got changed up a little bit more, well, a little bit ago, though, where it has more recoil. So now, Chief going to be on the forward position here for the defensive end, as he'll be holding things down inside of CCTV, but more or less cash, as he'll just be playing back and forth in between those doors. Rexon now will be taking control of Garage. Has the Selmas for the single panel, as that's intended to block off the angle for the cash door. Quite the important one. And speaking of importance, the Flores will be of the utmost importance when it comes to this setup. Rexon almost dying as the Chief chucks a nitro cell through the new hole inside of the Rafters wall, almost killing Rexon, but at least takes away the Selma. Now Kansan back to drone duty to continue to try and clear out the TSM position.
Gonna see these players start to move forward here as the Soniqs look to clear out the extension over towards Cash. Achieved, ready for the battle though, as his position is primed and set for this type of a push to come in from the Soniqs. Has that back support as well that you can see on the alibi from Bolo. So TSM very well prepared for this. You can see though, Achieve gonna test his luck a little bit, tries to peek out into that corner. Won't be able to spot any of the members of the Soniqs. Luckily for him, there's no peeking in the direction either to knock him out. Mork will eventually be able to find some success here, and Bolo too is not going to be caught here initially. He'll get a second kill also over to the Bailiff to quickly exchange that one back out. We will see a few more kills rattle onto the board here for the Soniqs as they're able to knock out Achieved as well as Chala on further back positions, but that's still not going to give them enough control over the site. They've only got the lead up towards it here, so a little bit more work to be done at the moment here by the Soniqs roster.
Incredibly smart from Bolo to drop this off right here. TSM still has control of main stairs, so he can just rotate back and help his team out. Rexon now creeping his way into sight. This could be the play that wins the Soniqs around, but Gio's covering it. It's all down to Super, the IGL, to win out the situation. Has some more smokes. He's going to try and work his way in through Stash, but Gio will take him down as well. TSM's timeout works out in the end. They'll pick up another round and get them one step closer to tying things up at the half.
Overwatch from TSM in multiple departments was just way better that time. And not only that, but actually closing out their fights, especially as we see for Bolo over here on the red stairs. Makes a mincemeat of that push that's working its way in through main balcony, and then the rest of the play to go in through Logi is scattered at best in its capability to pick up entries for the Soniqs. Their TSM scrap their way into a second round here. And are going to try and lock in the third as well, heading into the final round of the half now. Soniqs still in the lead, but only by one round. So TSM can equalize it if they make up for their mistake on the last basement defense, heading back to it for the final round of play.
Mulling this over, don't really know what Soniqs are going to do with the strategy overall. They can't really go back to what they had just done previously and try and go for the AK plant. I don't really think that's going to work out for them. They're more than likely switch things over to the Thatcher. Yeah, we're going to have that in. Super's going to be bringing the Thermite here. Kansan more than likely, actually no, he won't need secondary hard breach because yet he's going to be bringing the Selmas. But the big issue with those is that obviously those usually end up being used on walls as well. They're terrible for hatches, as you need 2 of them out of 3 to get 1 hatch open, so Super more than likely dedicated to those, yet he's just filling in as more of a flex pick. Here is that AK-12, which is also a really strong option. If they have to, they'll use the Selmas on the hatches if something goes awry. Past that, everything else making quite a bit of sense, including Rexon usually in on the flex pick, and this isn't going to change up too much as they're just trying to keep that Thatcher in play for these walls. First Selma will go down, yet he'll still be able to maintain 2 as he'll open up the CCTV wall. TSM, not overall strategy really dedicating themselves to this top floor. They're really just trying to hold onto it for a time, make their presence known, then dip off and try and delay some more of this Soniqs clock. But they're going to begin breaking up this map, including the bar connector.
So Soniqs a slow roll on things, as while we did see TSM's hand get played on the initial basement defense, Soniqs made the same error, potential error, I should say, by playing out their own hand on the second basement attack. Can't really replicate that type of strategy 2 times in a row, as Stokes was mentioning at the beginning of this one. So we're going to have to see the Soniqs go back to a more slow-rolling style of play that we saw used back in the first attack here. Unfortunately, this does re-enable the freedom for TSM to reignite their own roam game here, as we're continuing to see presence built up, mainly around main stairs right now. There were players playing around Logi and bedroom area right here where Kansan's currently holding earlier in the round, but they've since pulled that back and are now restraining it mainly towards that main stairs area, just trying to slow down the top-down angle opening that the Soniqs are probably trying to prioritize at this point in the round, given that we're down to the last minute and a half. This is so much room that Merc is going to be able to rotate into, though. Very surprised that Soniqs don't have Overwatch on this area at this point in the round here. Thankfully, drones are working their way through, so they should be able to spot him out as long as one goes deep enough, but still, they will regardless have to deal with him. This is not an easy position to bake him out of.
Oh, I don't think they're going to check billiards here.
Nope.
This is really, really bad. Oh, he's going to actually get one of the drones sitting on the bar table. I don't know if they'll know that that got destroyed. I don't know if anybody was on it, so extremely unfortunate there. But Kansan was in the area, so he more than likely heard the shot. He's playing on main stairs. Merc has to check this. Kansan going to be tight in the corner here. This is going to be hard fought for Merc. If he wins this, it's going to be a big frag for him. Actually going to end up he moved on first from Kansan. Very simple kill here for him as they knew Merc was already in the area. So, speaking of which, Rexon actually even closer to home at the current moment, been able to take down one inside of Church, and this is going to blow the entire site wide open. It's going to be more difficult for the Soniqs to try and work in from the main stairs, but they've got blue control. Chala working the cross here from deep inside of Armory, and the Thermite actually sliding right under this. He's going to begin his plan, but he finds the elbow of him to be able to take down Super right in the knees. Geo not able to land his shots initially there for Dirt, but unfortunately enough, now the Soniqs starting to land some big shots. The SMG-11 doesn't come out fast enough as he just stands there, gun in hand, and being gunned down from the Soniqs. It'll be a 4-2 lead for them at the half.
Some excellent work once again from the Soniqs. There definitely had a lot of factors playing out against them, from Merc's position over by Billiards, where he eventually rotated into bathrooms, getting spotted out, to a very clean entry, losing their planter as well. They're having to kind of juggle through that, but alongside the very powerful entries we saw them pick up before they even went into the site, starting the site execute from a 5v3, thankfully made things a lot more palatable at the end of the day for the Soniqs, and they're able to trade their way into a winning position, and now lock in a 4-2 advantage as they switch over to the defensive side. Things certainly looking good at the moment for the Soniqs as they try to conquest towards their 7th round.
Are we going to start the glass meta now? Are we coming back achieved? What's happening here? We'll have to find out. I don't want to go too deep into it. I don't want to harp on it too much yet, John, until it's locked in.
It's been soft locked so many times, and I don't think we've ever seen it actually make it through. It always gets repicked.
Not getting baited. This is not the Cyclops, so I'm just not going to trust it.
There's one. They're starting to show up now.
There it goes. There he goes. Depression. Depression. So Sledge will get picked up at the glass. Jackal will work its way in for Bolo, and Geo, well, Geo's going to do Geo things. He's switching over to Ace from Ace. So looks like TSM ready for this full clear here, and they're definitely prepared for this top floor clear, and that's why we've seen Bolo come in on the Jackal. It's going to be free information for them, and they'll be able to see where these Soniqs members are throughout the building and potentially get some free kills because of it. Super's going to be holding things down inside of Garage with some ADSs here. This is not exactly the craziest thing in the world. I definitely say it's pretty unique. This position could be pretty heavily abused depending on how the situation goes, so I'm excited to see how Super tries to work his way out of this.
Pay close attention to that. Yeti as well. Already trying to get adventurous here now that he sees the Selma going down onto his balcony wall. No immediate fraggable targets, as you're going to notice, as there's plenty more business to take care of over on the TSM side of things. The Hard Breach player has already rotated, I believe is working on opening things up over here towards Jacuzzi, but never mind. That's not going to be the case, as it wasn't even reinforced. So that's soft breachable. That'll be done by the secondary shotgun in Bolo's pocket over there, as he is able to knock that out and give his team a bit more access. Possibility that we see this bathroom position not go noticed, but we'll have to follow it up in a few minutes and see if that's going to remain to be the case. Yeah, looks like the player actually moved away from that. It's not a big deal there, as Bolo now has full construction control. He's going to try and pinch out what would have been the cash setup, and I'm pretty sure the Soniqs have peeled away from that as well.
Yes, indeed. Really like this clear from TSM. They pop the CCTV wall, then throw themselves all the way over to Jacuzzi because they know it's soft and clear from that side instead. Only big issue is they didn't really have any counter for anybody rotating off of the site, but it's not all doom and gloom at the end of the day. They still have hatch control and everything else in between. Super's also going to get out of the balcony space there inside of Garage, but that's going to give over to his ADSs, any of them that were dedicated in that area, and I don't exactly know how many were. There could have been 3, there could have been 2. It's one of those 2 numbers. But past that, the Soniqs will be able to maintain their man count as we start dwindling down to the last minute of play, where TSM will definitely need to get these hatches open, start working their way in, applying pressure to some of these harder to reach positions.
So TSM looking to still lock in onto a way to get themselves down into that basement position. Haven't even actually managed to get themselves kitchen control to start looking towards an opening towards that yet, and potentially may not even go for it ultimately, just given the kind of lack of hard breach they're working with right now. Chala may want to be saving his to be able to open up the church wall and get them easier access to site. It all depends on the route they want to try and take here, and I think that is being decided now. Really needs to be decided now as we're coming down to the final 40 seconds. So good to see those top down cooldowns begin to be open, mainly in the hallway leading over up top, as you can see right now. Nitro thrown out to try and stop what would have been an attempt to breach out through the kitchen hatch, but obviously way off. No targets anywhere near that. First kill of the round finally seen at 28 seconds. Geo able to knock out Yeti here, give the team a little bit more access leading in towards blue. Super still here, but Chalva going to be able to deal with that as well. Super goes down. Another kill found for Merc, as they're just swinging in now. There's a lack of time. They don't really have a choice here. TSM has to play it in, and they make it work regardless. Geo and a few other members of the squad clean up shop, as the Soniqs unfortunately just cannot contend with that entry power.
It was a mass extinction event for the Soniqs as they just get bowled over there on the side of the defensive setup. Had everything going their way when it came to those dying moments, minus the verticality, really. I mean, the timer and everything else in between, all in the Soniqs' favor. They just can't win their gunfights. They get taken out from TSM's resurgence into blue as they continue to just try and fight against the Soniqs. And now, I honestly think that we might eventually get a glass on the TSM lineup. I can totally see the way that they're trying to work this in at the current moment, continue to pick it on the offensive side, switch it off, switch it off, switch it off, and then have it for one round. And just see what the defense wants to try and potentially do with playing around smokes and things along those lines. You gotta remember, Thermite also has secondary smokes as well available to him. So a potential of 4 smokes here. Also with Sense working her way in, we're gonna have some new smokes available overall that could be utilized and quite interesting for a lineup like that. But with Glass switched off, that was more or less what everybody's been really talking about. Him being a 3-speed now, as well as that Barry 9 coming in, and the potential for some of these smoke plays to come through. But the big thing about smokes right now in Rainbow Six is there is a whole heck of a lot of counters when it comes to the defensive end. So I would say that it's kind of difficult to put all your eggs in that basket at the current moment.
So TSM having locked in their new lineup, of course, changing away from that Glass, bringing the Finka in for Achieved instead. And actually, I believe 3 other members of the team also going for a repick at some point during that prep phase as well. So lots changing up for the team, but mainly just having to shuffle a couple operators around, notably Merc having to pick up the sledge, since we would have seen on Achieved in the previous rounds and need to transition that. And Yeti, oh, I love this position, just not going to be able to line up anybody on TSM with it, and obviously can't really stay here now that it has been breached.
Yes, indeed. And speaking of breaching, Geo, he's blown open a new hole in the side of the building. Jacuzzi now gone, and TSM working their way in as well. Merc, we coming in through strip. So he working his way towards the bathrooms. This mid-floor seemingly clear. They do have a Soniqs member deep in the depths of Oil Pit at the current moment, all the way across the map with the potential to flank much later on. You got to be holding on to the site with the remainder of the Soniqs members as TSM continues to break down the walls around them and continue to forcibly apply pressure to the Soniqs, making it more difficult to play around some of these easier areas that initially you can hold on to. But Bolo is going to take it one step further. We be bringing in the Rotero drones just to get rid of some more utility, but fortunately enough, Kansas in the area to be able to deal with the initial one.
So Yeti still waiting for a challenge to work its way over towards the windows near him, but it may not come from that direction, and indeed it does not. Geo lines it up from another position instead. Merc and Bolo, look at these executes. They are split second, and they leave absolutely no room for any adjustments on the Sonic side. Rexon gonna try and reinsert, but there's a whole nother layer to this onion. As Achieved works his way up the red stairs, Super will get the only exchange I believe they're able to find in this round, and he's quickly knocked out as well. So another nearly flawless round thrown on the board by TSM as they are shutting down these defensive setups from the Soniqs with seemingly not much of an issue.
Yeah, Bolo, I'd be smiling too after that. I mean, my God, just run at him, I guess. This is incredible. First kill goes in, all of the TSM squad on deck for the remainder of that round. Fully in control of the site from that moment onwards. As not a single Soniqs member is allowed to even come within a country mile of that area besides Super, and he just sneaks up the main stairwell there. So for the Soniqs now, it's going to be a tied ball game here. Really got to figure something out when it comes to this defensive end, as TSM has time and time again taken it to them. This offensive side seemingly favored, but right now it's TSM all day. We really need to see the Soniqs make a grand stand at some point.
When will it show up, though, is the question, as TSM already catching up to the scoreline of the Soniqs. Now potentially just primed, really, to take control away from them this upcoming round here, unless the Sonics bring up a massive change to their own game plan and really hunker down on their site defenses, which just seem way too loose at the moment here, leaving way too much room for TSM to strike true and get those entries going. So I don't know if that means the Sonics need to play things more passively or more forward to try and stop TSM or even having the possibility of getting into the site. But it's all up to them here as we come down to the final 4 rounds of play at the end of regulation.
Well, nothing too crazy for either one of these teams. Dirt will be left soft, and obviously the natural move would be to try and take control of Dirt with somebody like Sledge, and that's exactly what Sheeved will achieve. So pushing this drone forward through the barbed wire. This will just be a sign of the time to the Sonics as soon as they hear some footsteps inside of that barb. As for Kansan, he's going to be the lone soul on site at the current moment, with Rexon holding things down inside of stock. He'll have control of the blue hatch, and you can see how the Sonics have kind of layered themselves one on top of the other throughout the map, making it to where you can have some pretty quick responses if necessary across the board. TSM, though, they've occupied the other area inside of the map, just across the way, as they'll be over the top of bar, as well as have full control over strip at the current moment. Sheeved will be holding things down inside of Dirt. They're going to check it really quickly, but he's playing quite patiently in here. This all rests upon the rest of TSM to push in first. He's just simply going to hold the soft angle until his time is needed. As for the rest of TSM, though, Merc will continue to clear things out upstairs inside of Garage. Shala's adjusting over on the roof right now as TSM's trying to wrap their head around this defensive setup.
Attackers have recovered their diffuser.
Nice little hidden camera from Valkyrie, spotted out there, unfortunately, by the members of TSM, so Sonics won't be able to gather the intel from that for too much longer. They will lose it, and as well, the first kill finally going to be picked up here by Achieve. Patience works out very well for him, as I think he catches potentially an over-aggressive Yeti trying to swing his way out from the inside of the site there. So knocking him down gives TSM as well that extra player that they can kind of throw at the Sonics lineup here in order to trade their way into a win, if that is TSM's wish, of course. They've played things all together, however, so we're more than likely going to see a much more conjoined effort than that as they try to line up the appropriate angles needed to assault the site, and that should be coming pretty soon with all these top downs being opened by Achieve up top.
You can see how worried the Sonics are about a player coming in from Dirt. TSM finally stepping to one coming inside of blue. Bolo, back and forth he goes. Swings coming off of the main AC unit. Chala's going to be the first one with a big frag, though, as the kills come in hot and heavy for TSM. Only one refrag, and it's all down to the captain yet again, Super. Some important shots, and he'll get the first one as he knocks down Bolo, but the readjustment will get him killed. Tries to slam a new mag as he walks into Moto, but he gets gunned down in the process, and TSM claim the lead.
Well, I talked about at the beginning of this game how we talked to Bolo in the middle of stage 1, and he
wasn't exploiting them, and it's working quite handily for them, just like it did for the Sonics on very similar setups. So for the Sonics now, gonna try and rethink their game plan. Honestly, in my less professional analysis, it's got to be Super's fault for cutting the beard off. You always got to blame it on the lack of facial hair. Come on, Seth, what are you doing? Grow that beard back, and I'm sure that Sonics will be back on top inside of North America. TSM, though, they're going to continue to fake out this glass pick. You can see Achieve just loving to do this with the attacker repick at the current moment.
It's not fooling us, thankfully, so not going to see that locked in as it's already been swapped out towards the Zofia. A few other changes, too, is, believe it or not, the Finka is going to be removed from the lineup. That sticks instead. We're going to see, oh, it's happening. Okay, yeah, no, yeah, Achieved swapped into it, so.
Spoke too soon.
Just flipped them, basically. Achieved still the mess with us on the glass pick there. But yep, the Finka comes back for Achieved, and we will see the Flores remain in play as Bolo will actually undo his swap.
I can almost guarantee you what that conversation went like. Achieved realized he was on Sledge and that they were picking up Flores instead of Finken. It was like, well, we really don't need the Sledge, do we? Like, I can just play the Fink. I mean, come on, guys.
Not for this site, especially considering they got Flores, too. Those Rotero drones actually are going to have a pretty powerful explosion radius because most of the utility, at least the ones that are inside of CCTV, are going to be pretty claustrophobically put together, just combined in these big units, which means you can probably get a few combo hits off of those Rotero drones to knock some of that utility out.
And wouldn't you know, the Sonics not only bringing the Melusi, but also bringing the Legion. A sign of the times inside of this game and what we've been seeing from TSM and their offensive clears. Very hot and heavy when it comes down to the last 30 seconds. Very fast clears and very potent at that, like John was touching on during the TAC timeout. This seems to be what Sonics want to do to try and put an obstacle in front of this game plan. They're going to be holding some map pressure down low as well. Very smart positioning here for Super, as Lounge is of the utmost importance, but but when you cross like that, that's what's gonna happen. Usually somebody holding down bar connector, Super thinks he can win the fight, but he's been gunned down instead, just awaiting the bleed out timer or another bullet to claim that life.
We're going to be able to strike true and knock out Super. He's finally finished off Rexon to fall that closely behind, as I do believe the Sonics try to get players in position to trade that out, but have only pushed themselves further into the depths, it would appear at this point. Kansan nearly throwing the team even further into it. Grixer, in the meanwhile, finding success. He does eventually light up that kill versus Bolo, knocking out the remaining Rotero drones, if there were any, from his pocket as well here. So a momentary glimpse of the light is seen for the Sonics, but they need to really hold on to it here, as this is still going to be a desperate scenario when TSM are able to recenter themselves, especially when you look at Grixer as well as Kansan's HP at a little around half for both of them.
Oh, Yeti. I'm crossing my fingers at the current moment for this man. Xander in such a strong position, but if he plays this incorrectly, he can be discovered from the Thatcher that's currently inside a bar connector. Chala's going to start working his way up garage. They have plenty of time to be able to play out this situation as well. To see if the adjustment came in. I do believe it did. I think Merc is upstairs inside of Rafters with our Thermite at the current moment, and he is indeed. So that means that Yeti can continue to play along down low. Grenade in for Green Box almost takes out Grixer, is more than likely the single panel getting taken care of here momentarily. And yes, indeed, Chala will start the plant. He's been found from Yeti underneath, but Yeti, he can't land the shots. Chala will readjust. Geo will take down yet another one, as they're just going to try and fight the members on site. A nice shot here, but Yeti will take down one before. Cross your fingers here, folks. Sonics are not going to be able to win out the round. Yeti just can't land the shots with the MP5 coming up red, and there's quite a few other members in the area for that refrag in the first place. TSM just too strong when it comes to this offensive end.
They managed to accomplish one goal here that we were talking about in the post round there, of slowing down the attack from TSM. Probably as it came at the cost of still losing like 2 to 3 additional players before TSM was even ready for the execute. So while, yes, they have been able to push these executes towards a later point in the round, it's still that same situation where TSM just has ultimate control at that point. They're able to bully their way in and ultimately just win it off of a haphazard gunfight. They don't have to worry too much about controlling there.
Yeah, for a defensive setup that's intended to slow down TSM, I don't necessarily understand the initial engagement from the Sonics there either. I think it was a little too hot-headed to go swinging like that into that situation. You're trying to wait out TSM and see what they can potentially do with the remainder of that map. And for instance, like the situation with the Super, like he still has the entirety of the bottom of garage to play out, but he's swinging the bar connector instead. Just situations like that, if it did get played out in a different situation, has a lot more potential near the tail end of the round to be able to assist things, but also will lounge a very difficult area to play out in the first place. I mean, you have secret window, you have secret in general for somebody to try and crawl in from something like dirt, coming in from down low, that bar connector, as well as if they quickly take garage and know your location, it's just a quick pre-fire and you're dead there on that stairwell. So sometimes things can get antsy. I think that's exactly what we saw in the Sonics round. They thought they could just get one over on TSM, try and catch them off guard early, and unfortunately enough, did not work out for them. But now into the round, and potentially the last one here on Clubhouse, if TSM can knock this out 7-4.
Maybe feeling like they needed to some extent here, given how strong the intel game has been from TSM as well. You're not going to be pulling off executes like we've been seeing from TSM without having a rock-solid intel game. So maybe Sonics was just trying to get more aggressive to hopefully get ahead of that a little bit and catch players of TSM relatively unaware of their intentions, which unfortunately just wasn't really the case there, except for a few gunfights that ended up going the Sonics' way. So need to go back to the drawing board on that one, look for a way to recenter themselves. Unfortunately, they are running out of time to do it. For those who haven't already noticed, TSM now on match point, only one round to go here, and the Sonics need to win the next 2 consecutively just to keep them in the fight and trigger overtime.
Absolutely, and it all comes down to potentially this for the Sonics, as we've been touching on. TSM already inside of the building, beginning clearing things out. No real presence from the Sonics when it comes to this mid-floor, obviously, as they will be defending the gym bedroom area, usually an extension out towards the east to hold on to cash, and that's exactly what we will have, sometimes also extending out towards the top of red with something like a deployable shield. Also going to have the single panel inside of construction blown up, and this is going to complicate things for the Sonics, as well as getting rid of some of these easier to reach defensive points for these Rotero drones for Bolo. But back to that single panel, this makes it to where TSM can have influence through the middle of this top floor at a moment's notice, and refrag or just have a different entry point at any moment in time that could really catch the Sonics off guard. Got some more Rotero drones rotating in. Not gonna be able to get rid of that Banshee, as Yeti will be able to get rid of that, but TSM has been able to dwindle down the Sonics utility quite a bit. Only have access to that single nitro cell right now on Rexon, and past that, potentially some evil eyes and some impacts to try and stave off a plant.
down to the last minute, and TSM
Oh
has
my
come to a little
God.
bit of a halt, but it's all for good reasoning achieved. Lining up another nade frag against Yeti from down below, manages to eliminate him, takes him out, and leaves the members of the Soniqs again with that lack of a player just as we're getting up to the execute point. Bit of an overstep potentially here from Merc, and indeed it will. Super capitalizes on it, trades it back, brings us into an even term once again as it's brought down to a 4v4. Achieved will pick up one more for our attackers, but Grixer does the same for the defense. Kansan now taking control from the back of Jim. He'll shut down the first. Rexon will shut down the second. Just the third remains, so it all falls to Achieved here inside of the 1v3 to end the game here and now. But only has 15 seconds to make that play, and he's quickly losing his control here. He's forced out with a little over half HP, and then finally knocked out by Kansan as the Soniqs survive with one of the 2 rounds they need to trigger overtime just being claimed.
Patience, patience, patience from the Soniqs, and it works out beautifully for them. A very nicely placed nade here from Achieved, but Super, really the star of the show when it came to this defensive end, although the multi-kills obviously came through other people. He was able to stop Merc from making that hardcore entry, and that was the big thing there. Merc more than likely would have taken out a multitude of Soniqs members. I mean, sometimes when he hits those moments, he just seems unstoppable, so you really never know how many people he's going to kill. You could be like, oh, in a situation like that, a normal person would kill 2 people, and Merc's like, ah, well, I killed the whole team, so I'm built a little bit different, you know, constructed alternatively, you know. But past that, though, the Soniqs able to pick up a very important round at that current moment. They're going to head back downstairs and play this one a little bit more defensively. Really like this Mira adaptation coming in here for this end.
This is it, round 12, the final round of regulation. Either the Soniqs will trigger an OT or TSM will win it in maximum time. It's 7-5 here. Important to note, too, the way our point structure works, you do get those bonus points for winning things out inside of regulation. So TSM will probably want that additional point here if they can come to terms with this victory at a 7-5 instead of having to push into OT and lose what would have been that additional point should they still win, with a worst case scenario going down to 1 point, obviously, should the Soniqs completely come back and manage to take it.
All right, well, Soniqs with an opportunity to force us into overtime. Be the Roman strategy yet again, even though we initially thought it was going to look a little bit more defensive, but the Mutant Mozzie usually tend to lean things up towards the sky, and that's exactly what we'll get out of the Soniqs. Past that, though, it'll be on to TSM to clear this out once again, as we'll start things inside of Strip with the drone game here from Merc. TSM's entire drone game more than likely quickly behind him as well. He'll discover that there's no one really playing around the main stairs, and that more than likely quite a few of the Soniqs members are, in fact, on the top floor. Already seeing that one of those laser gates is dedicated towards this top floor. They're going to clear it, actually, but more than likely be reset later on by another one of the Soniqs members, probably Yeti, who's around the area at the current moment. So that hatch will continue to be locked up for some time. But for TSM, seemingly they found the answer. We're going to open things up on the jacuzzi balcony and start forcing Yeti backwards. But it doesn't seem like he wants to fall back just yet. But as soon as I say that, find some greener pastures here inside of construction as well as cash.
So we've got TSM working their way in, but a lot of progress needs to be made before they're going to have the confidence to send into the basement here. They have managed to flush the second floor hole down in through blue as well, so that's going to be both Yeti and Rexon now returning to the downstairs site. Super kept himself actually in this position, so he's going to continue to maintain garage control, but I believe he is also working on, obviously a bit of a longer one, but he's working on his rotation to get himself down below. Bolo is going to try and catch him out, but I don't believe we'll track the correct foot here, so we'll not be able to see him, and of course he's now made it into the relative safety of blue. So he as well successfully falls back, and that means the TSM have to deal with essentially a full bunker setup on their assault of the basement now.
Yeah, and this is the beautiful thing about bringing Mira in a situation like this, is when you fall back, you still have some super strong bastions of defense around the area that you can hold on to and really complicate the offensive push, making it to where they have to deal with kind of a ghost pressure. You know, even if somebody isn't managing the Mira, you still have to deal with it like there is. So TSM now trying to get some extra info before they inevitably push into this site. It's going to be hard fought, though. They still have a lot of utility to deal with, especially with these Banshees around the area that have the potential to slow down this push and make the fights a little easier for the Soniqs. And obviously with the man advantage, or rather man count that they had there for a split second, TSM's actually going to take down Rexon with a nicely placed nade. Kansan won't be able to win out the initial shot. He's missing so many bullets. Oh my God, not like this, Soniqs, please. Fight back. Achieve Glaive will get taken down as well. It's up to Grixer. He's in the smoke, but so is Chala. He's in your home. He's in your walls. As TSM will take down the Soniqs inside of regulation on an explosive play into the basement. TSM completely clean for stage 2.
Rough go of it there for the Soniqs as they had to fight for every single inch of this game.